This is my podcast number 2, the Ealy Mays show. This is about two great painters. We're going to talk about the difference between Black American art and African art. And both of these artists were very famous, and I got to know both of them. It was 1996, and I was in a residency in Skowhegan, Maine, and the summer of 1996. There was a famous artist there. His name was Jacob Lawrence. Jacob Lawrence he did the Great Migration series, and Jake and I got to know each other. Though I was a resident there at the Skowhegan, the School of Painting and Sculpture, I'd already had a chemistry, biology, and a medical degree there before I even went there. But the thing about it, most of the kids there were art students. I was not an art student, so they considered me an outsider. Well, Jacob Lawrence was an old man at that time. He was near 80, and it was, the softness of the Maine summer. It was a paradise. We had our own studios in the woods there, and then we had a lot of famous artists were there at that time. Roy Lichtenstein. Who else we had? I met Jay Rockefeller. The first critique that I had, each artist had a critique, and it was called the Red Barn. And I remember I got blasted. They said they ate me. They roasted me. But nevertheless, I was one of the older guys there at the compound. I was about 36 at the time. That was kind of old compared to the rest of the young artists. Now, my second critique came from Jacob Lawrence himself. And Jacob Lawrence, he being a Black American like myself, came to me and said, you are a narrative painter. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but nevertheless, it stuck. And when he said that, it seemed like it sent shockwaves through those young white artists who were famous at the time who gave me a bad critique. Okay, point being, well, Jake and I got to know each other, and from Skowhegan, I was headed to Paris. Jacob Lawrence never came to Paris. I think that's what he told me. He died in Seattle. He did the series, the Hiroshima, the Children of Hiroshima, about the atomic bomb. And I asked him, I said, how is it that you as a Black American was chosen to do a series about very sensitive to Japanese culture? And he said, they chose me. I'm an artist. I'm a painter. And that was pretty good. Nevertheless, there was a visual artist named Gary Hill. Gary Hill, we had a party there at Skowhegan, and I was headed to Paris, and I wanted to know, was there any contact that he knew that I could meet in Paris? So while the party was going on, Gary Hill won the what was that fellowship? Well, he was huge video artist during that time. Well, he wrote on a napkin, the City des Arts, international artist, and he wrote the name Madame Bruno. Well, when I got to Paris in 1997. I went to the City des Arts. They said, it's impossible to get into the City des Arts. Well, I got in. And Madame Bruno kind of took a little liking to me. I kind of was like the Steve McQueen of the Great Escape. I always thought I was getting in trouble. She would always call me to the office, but it was cool. So, 1999, there was the famous African sculptor named Ousmane. And he was a psychotherapist, but he was the best sculptor of Senegal. And so I got to meet him by way of Madame Bruno, and he had the exposition on Ponce des Arts. He replaced the famous American artist Andrew Wyeth and the Francais de Beaux-Arts. He's a member there. Well, I got a conversation with him. I said, why did you do a series on Crazy Horse? or the Battle of Little Bighorn. And he knew that, we got a philosophical. Very briefly, I said, I'm not an African American. I'm an American and a generational Black American, and he accepted that. It was in passing, because he did a series on the Battle of Little Bighorn, which I thought was kind of interesting. He being from Senegal, and just like Jacob Lawrence did the series of Children of Hiroshima, but the beautiful thing about it, they were artists. They were artists before they were, quote unquote, black artists. Nevertheless, Jacob Lawrence died in 2000, and Ousmane Sow died in 2016. But I had the opportunity to meet both of these great artists. Ousmane Sow did a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sculpture of Overture, who led the slave revolt in Haiti. And in the same light, Jacob Lawrence did a beautiful painting of Overture, which at one exposition I had my painting right next to Jacob's painting. That was at the University of, I think, Washington. I'm not sure. The Washington in St. Louis. But like I told my daughter, make your life interesting, and interesting people will come your way. Okay, that's if I want you guys to look up these two great artists, Ousmane Sow from Senegal, and the great Jacob Lawrence. He was born in Atlantic City, New Jersey. That's episode 2.